The signal appeared on Dr. Park's monitor at exactly 3:42 a.m. At first, he thought it was a glitch in the system, but the pattern continued steady, rhythmic, and unlike anything he had ever seen before. The radio telescope at South Korea's Deep Space Observation Center rarely picked up anything this structured. Dr. Park adjusted his glasses and called his colleague. "Dr. G, you need to see this." Dr. G hurried over, her coffee sloshing in her mug. She leaned forward, eyes widening as she watched the signal pulse across the screen. "It's not random noise," she whispered. "These are prime numbers. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. And look at this pattern here," Dr. Park pointed to a repeating sequence. "It's too organized to be natural." By morning, a small team had gathered in the observatory's main room. Dr. Nam, their xenolinguist, studied the signal with growing excitement and concern. "This isn't just mathematics," she explained to the others. "There's a linguistic pattern emerging. See how these sequences repeat but with small variations? That's how language works." The team worked for 3 days straight, analyzing the signal. They determined it came from a star system about 40 light-years from Earth. Dr. Nam grew more worried as patterns began to make sense. "I think it's a warning," she finally announced during their team meeting. Director Kong raised his eyebrows. "A warning? About what?" Dr. Nam pointed to her notes. "The mathematical patterns establish intelligence, but these subsequent patterns contain what appear to be danger markers. Something about Earth being visible and, I think, consequences of detection." The room fell silent. "We need to alert the International Space Agency," Dr. Park said. Director Kong nodded slowly. "I'll make some calls." 2 weeks later, Dr. Nam and Dr. Park found themselves sitting in a sterile conference room at the ISA headquarters. Across from them sat Director Choi, who looked more bored than concerned. "So you believe you've received a warning from aliens?" Director Choi asked, not bothering to hide his skepticism. "The signal shows clear signs of artificial intelligence," Dr. Park explained. "And Dr. Nam's analysis strongly suggests it contains warning markers." Dr. Nam opened her tablet and displayed her work. "The message repeats these danger symbols alongside what we believe are representations of Earth and approaching objects. The timing suggests urgency." Director Choi sighed. "Do you know how many alien signals we investigate each year?" "Dozens. And every time, they turn out to be pulsars, satellite interference, or overexcited scientists." "This is different," Dr. Nam insisted. "The mathematical complexity alone." "I appreciate your enthusiasm," Director Choi interrupted, "but we need more than enthusiasm before we start telling the world aliens are coming to get us." Dr. Park leaned forward. "We're not saying that. We're saying there's a message that deserves serious investigation." "Fine. Submit your full report. We'll add it to our evaluation queue." As they left the building, Dr. Nam could barely contain her frustration. "They're not going to do anything, are they?" Dr. Park shook his head. "Not with any urgency." Over the next months, the team continued their work, refining their analysis of the signal, which had stopped as suddenly as it had appeared. Dr. Nam made significant progress in decoding what she now firmly believed was a language. "It's definitely a warning," she told her colleagues one evening. "Something about Earth being observed, about our signals being detected, and about visitors who might misunderstand us." They tried repeatedly to get government attention. They submitted papers to scientific journals, but the peer review process moved slowly. They contacted military officials, who listened politely but took no action. They even reached out to private space companies, who showed interest but wanted exclusive rights to any alien technology. 9 months after the signal, Dr. Nam sat alone in her apartment, staring at her translation notes. The warning seemed clearer now: someone was coming, someone who didn't understand Earth's true capabilities, and conflict would follow. Her phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Park: "Skywatchers in Australia reporting strange light patterns near Mars orbit. Official explanation is meteor shower." Dr. Nam stood up and walked to her window, looking at the night sky. She wondered if anyone else on Earth understood how everything might soon change. The warning had been sent, received, translated, and ignored. Now they could only wait to see what would come next. Commander June stood on the observation deck of the Hegemony's flagship, Eternal Dawn. Through the massive viewing window, the blue planet Earth hung like a jewel against the blackness of space. He had traveled across 17 star systems to reach this remote corner of the galaxy, and now his mission would soon begin. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said Ambassador Shin, joining him at the window. Unlike Commander June in his crisp military uniform, she wore the flowing diplomatic robes of the Hegemony Council. "Beauty is irrelevant," June replied. "What matters is whether they will be useful additions to the Hegemony or troublesome resistors." The Hegemony had spent decades studying Earth from afar. Their long-range probes had collected radio signals, television broadcasts, and internet communications. They had built a partial understanding of human languages, cultures, and technologies. "The intelligence reports suggest they are still primitive," said General Min, who approached with a data tablet in hand. "Their most advanced weapons are nuclear devices with limited delivery systems. Their space capabilities barely extend beyond their own moon." Ambassador Shin frowned. Yet something doesn't add up. Their technological progress over the last century has been remarkably rapid. "Rapid for them, perhaps," General Min scoffed. "But they haven't even developed basic gravity manipulation or efficient energy storage. They still burn fossil fuels." Commander June turned from the window. "What about the warning signal?" "Ah yes, that mysterious message," General Min said with a dismissive wave. "One of our scout ships detected a transmission from the Talari. Always interfering, those creatures." The Talari were an old, peaceful species known for their caution. They had presumably sent a warning to Earth about the coming Hegemony fleet. The message was likely intercepted by Earth's primitive systems, General Min continued. "Even if they received it, they wouldn't have the capability to translate it." Ambassador Shin wasn't convinced. "We should consider a diplomatic approach first. Show our peaceful intentions." "The Council has already decided," Commander June reminded her. "We will arrive with overwhelming force. They will recognize their technological inferiority and surrender without conflict." In the ship's strategy room, the three gathered with other high-ranking officials. A holographic projection of Earth rotated above the central table. "Our fleet will decloak in Earth orbit tomorrow," Commander June announced. 200 ships positioned strategically around the planet. No major population center will be without a visible reminder of our presence. "And if they resist?" asked Ambassador Shin. General Min activated another hologram showing a small, uninhabited island in Earth's Pacific Ocean. "A single energy pulse will vaporize this island. A demonstration of power that harms no humans but makes our capabilities clear. After they witness our technology," Commander June continued, "Ambassador Shin will deliver the terms of peaceful integration into the Hegemony. They will be given protectorate status, with limited self-governance under our supervision." Later that night, Ambassador Shin visited the ship's archives. She reviewed the historical records of other species' first contacts with the Hegemony. Some had joined peacefully. Others had resisted and faced the consequences. Something about Earth bothered her. Their communications showed a species both violent and compassionate, both primitive and ingenious. Their fiction often depicted alien invasions and humans winning against all odds. Just stories, she reminded herself. Their actual military capabilities were well documented by the Hegemony's intelligence division. On the bridge, Commander June finalized the approach vectors. "Maintain cloaking until we reach Earth orbit," he ordered. "All ships will reveal themselves simultaneously for maximum psychological impact." The massive fleet moved silently through the solar system, passing Mars undetected. Their engines left no heat signature, their hulls absorbed radar waves, and their mass displacement technology prevented gravitational detection. Or so they believed. In his private quarters, General Min reviewed the weapons protocols one last time. The demonstration would target an uninhabited island called Jarvis Island. The energy beam would completely erase it from existence, showing humans the futility of resistance. As the fleet approached Earth's orbit, Commander June gathered his officers. Tomorrow, we make history. This planet becomes the newest member of our great civilization. Ambassador Shin watched Earth grow larger through her window. Lights twinkled across its dark side, cities full of people unaware that their world would change forever in less than 12 hours. I hope they make the wise choice, she whispered to herself. The fleet took its final positions, surrounding Earth like silent predators. Commander June gave the order that would soon echo across the stars. Prepare for first contact. Dr. Nam woke to the sound of her phone ringing. The clock showed 4:17 a.m. She fumbled for the device in the darkness. Hello? It's Dr. Park. Get to the observatory now. Something big is happening. 20 minutes later, Dr. Nam rushed into the control room. Dr. Park and 3 other scientists huddled around monitors, their faces lit by blue screen light. What's going on? She asked. Dr. Park pointed to a display showing various wavelength readings. Several of our deep space monitoring stations reported strange shadows passing in front of stars. The pattern matches exactly what was described in the warning signal. Dr. Nam felt her stomach tighten. They're here? Already? We think so. Look at this. He switched to another screen showing thermal readings from around Mars. There were faint heat signatures moving in formation, hundreds of them. Nobody else has detected this, Dr. G explained. We only caught it because we modified our scanners based on the warning signal frequencies. Dr. Nam took a seat, trying to process the information. Have you reported this? We've tried, Dr. Park said. Military says their systems show nothing. Space agencies say the same. No one believes us because their equipment can't see what ours can. Throughout the morning, they tracked the objects moving closer to Earth. By noon, the heat signatures had reached Earth orbit but remained invisible to conventional detection systems. Dr. Nam called her contact at the International Space Agency again. Please, just listen. We have evidence of multiple large objects in orbit around Earth. They match exactly what the warning signal described. Dr. Nam, sighed the official, we've been through this. Your warning signal hasn't been verified by any other observatory. And now you're claiming invisible ships? I'm sorry, but we need more than your modified equipment readings. She hung up in frustration. No one will listen until it's too late. At exactly 3 p.m. Global Standard Time, it happened. Across the world, enormous ships suddenly appeared in the sky. They materialized over major cities: Seoul, New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, Tokyo. Each ship was at least 2 kilometers long, dark metallic in color, with glowing blue lights along its hull. Panic erupted worldwide. Traffic stopped. People poured into streets, looking up. Military jets scrambled but kept their distance. Communications networks became overwhelmed as billions tried to call loved ones or post videos online. At the observatory, Dr. Nam and her team watched in stunned silence. The cloaking technology, Dr. Park whispered. Just like the warning described. Dr. Nam's phone rang. It was Director Choi from the International Space Agency. You were right, he said simply. What do we do now? Bring me to whoever's in charge, she replied. I've translated more of the warning. I know what might happen next. 3 hours later, Dr. Nam sat in a military bunker with top government officials. Satellite images of the alien ships filled screens around the room. One by one, her officers nodded their agreement. No one left the room. 20 hours later, 3 Earth vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Kesh Prime. They carried the experimental core stabilization technology. This is Captain Gina Kim of Earth. We're here to help, and we're not waiting for paperwork. The Concordance officials on Kesh Prime were scandalized. You cannot simply arrive uninvited. There are protocols. Your people are dying, Jean interrupted, and we have the technology to save them. Are you really going to refuse help because we didn't file the right forms? On the planet's surface, the situation was worse than they had calculated. The ground shook constantly. Buildings had collapsed. People huddled in emergency shelters, waiting for evacuation ships that were still being prepared in distant star systems. Our equipment needs to be placed at 3 points around the planet, Engineer Sue explained to the local Concordance administrator. We can stabilize the core enough to buy time for evacuation. This technology hasn't been approved by the Science Council, the administrator protested weakly. Would you prefer to wait for their report? Kim asked. It should only take a few weeks. Of course, the planet will be gone by then. The administrator looked at the desperate faces of his people, then back at the humans. Do what you must. I will accept responsibility. For 3 days, the human crews worked alongside local engineers to deploy the stabilization devices. The work was dangerous, several tunnels collapsed, and one team had to be rescued from a sudden lava flow. But slowly, the tremors began to lessen. On the 4th day, the first official Concordance relief ships arrived, expecting to find a world in chaos. Instead, they found a planet still in danger but stabilizing. The Concordance fleet commander, Admiral Yun, was not pleased. Captain Kim, you have violated 17 separate protocols. Your actions have undermined Concordance authority and bypassed proper assessment procedures. Have we? Kim asked, looking pointedly at the screen showing the stabilization progress. Or have we saved 3 million lives? Both can be true, Admiral Yun admitted reluctantly. But procedures exist for reasons beyond immediate outcomes. Sometimes procedures cost lives, Jean said quietly. The Admiral had no immediate response to that. As the humans prepared to depart, leaving the continuing stabilization effort to the now-arrived Concordance teams, something unexpected happened. The local residents gathered near their ships, not to protest, but to express gratitude. One colonist, an elder named One, approached Captain Kim directly. The Concordance has governed our world for 12 generations, he said. They have brought peace and stability. But today, we learned something important about action and decisiveness. Kim nodded, understanding the significance of his words. The Concordance's careful, methodical approach had built a stable galaxy, but it had also created a system where immediate action in a crisis was nearly impossible. As her ship departed Kesh Prime, Captain Kim knew they would face serious consequences. The Concordance would not overlook such a blatant violation of their rules. Yet looking at the planet growing smaller on their view screen, a planet still intact, with millions still alive, she couldn't bring herself to regret their choice. What happens now? Jean asked quietly. Now, Kim replied, we face the music. And hope we've shown them that sometimes, breaking the rules is the only right thing to do. Behind them, Kesh Prime continued to spin, its core stabilizing, its people alive, all because humans hadn't waited for permission to act. The Concordance High Court was convened for the first time in 3 centuries. Its massive chamber, carved from a single asteroid, housed representatives from all 17 species. At the center stood Captain Kim, First Officer Jean, and Negotiator Han. You stand accused of violations of Concordance Statutes 37 through 415, intoned Chief Justice Mun, his voice resonating through the chamber. Unauthorized intervention in sovereign space, deployment of uncertified technology, and circumvention of proper authority channels. We acknowledge these actions, Han responded calmly. We do not acknowledge any wrongdoing. A murmur ran through the assembly. None had expected such a bold statement. Explain, demanded Justice Mun. When action is required to save lives, bureaucracy must take second place, said Captain Kim. On Earth, we have a concept called moral imperative that supersedes procedural requirements. Such thinking leads to chaos, objected one of the Concordance prosecutors. Does it? Jean stepped forward, activating a holographic display. These are the survival statistics from Kesh Prime. Had we waited for proper authorization, 3 million colonists would have perished. Is procedural adherence worth 3 million lives? The chamber fell silent. Kim looked around at the assembled representatives. Many wore expressions of discomfort. They weren't used to having their systems questioned so directly. I understand your concern for order, she continued. Rules create stability. But rigid rules without room for judgment can be just as dangerous as no rules at all. An elder counselor named Quan rose slowly from his seat. For 10,000 years, the Concordance has maintained peace through process and procedure. Would you have us abandon this for human impulsiveness? Not abandon, Han clarified. Evolve. Add flexibility where it's needed most, in emergencies where lives hang in the balance. Furthermore, Han continued, your own historical records indicate 17 separate instances where adherence to protocol resulted in preventable tragedies. The loss of Setter 4. The plague of the outer worlds. The collapse of the Third Migration Fleet. Justice Mun's eyes narrowed. How did you access those records? They are restricted to full council members. Han smiled slightly. We asked your younger staffers. They were quite helpful once they understood our reasoning. Another shocked murmur ran through the assembly. You've corrupted our subordinates, gasped one counselor. We showed them that sometimes immediate action saves lives, Jean corrected. Several of them have since formed their own response teams modeled after Earth's approach. The court called a recess. As the humans waited in a small antechamber, they could hear the heated debates taking place throughout the station. Not all voices were against them. Some, particularly from the younger Concordance species, were speaking in their defense. This isn't just about us anymore, Jean observed. We've triggered something bigger. Kim nodded. They've been doing things the same way for thousands of years. Change won't come easily. When the court reconvened, something had shifted. The faces of many representatives showed thoughtfulness rather than outrage. We have reviewed the outcome data from Kesh Prime, Justice Mun stated. The effectiveness of your intervention cannot be denied. However, the manner of that intervention undermines the very foundation of our society. With respect, Kim said, perhaps that foundation needs to be examined. Not replaced, but strengthened with new ideas. A representative from one of the younger species stood. I concur with the human. My world joined the Concordance only 3 centuries ago. We still remember what it was like to act decisively. There is wisdom in careful deliberation, but also in swift action when needed. The trial continued for 7 days, far shorter than the standard Concordance judicial process. Throughout the proceedings, a surprising number of voices spoke in defense of the humans, mostly from the younger species in the Concordance. On the final day, Justice Mun delivered the verdict, while the court cannot condone violations of our sacred protocols, we acknowledge the effectiveness of the human approach in certain limited circumstances. Instead of punishment, the court offered a shocking proposal. Humans would lead a new division of the Concordance, a rapid response force authorized to act in emergency situations without waiting for full approval processes. Consider it a trial, Justice Mun said. A test of whether your way and ours can find balance. As they left the court, Administrator 1 from Kesh Prime approached them. Thank you, he said simply. My family lives because you acted. Many of us are rethinking what it means to be part of the Concordance. Captain Kim smiled. Change is often uncomfortable, but sometimes necessary. Your species is strange, one admitted. You act without permission, speak your minds openly, and challenge traditions thousands of years old. Yet in just a short time, you've made us question things we never thought to question. That's what humans do best, Han replied. We never stop asking why and why not. As they boarded their ship to return to Earth with news of their unusual verdict, Captain Kim felt a sense of accomplishment greater than she had expected. They hadn't just saved one world, they had potentially changed the course of galactic governance. Think they'll actually let us run this new response force? Jean asked. They'll try to control it with 1,000 regulations, Kim predicted. And we'll keep finding ways to do what needs to be done. Sounds like the start of a beautiful friendship, Jean said with a smile. 1 standard year later, Captain Kim stood on the bridge of the Concordance Earth vessel Decisive Action. The ship was the first of its kind, a hybrid of Concordance technology and human innovation, designed for rapid deployment to crisis zones. Status report, she requested. Her crew, a mix of humans and representatives from 7 concordance species, responded efficiently. The ship's executive officer, Commander Song, reviewed the latest mission parameters. Spatial disturbance detected in Sector 87, Song reported. Traditional response time would be 9 days. We can be there in 14 hours. The Concordance Council has been notified? Kim asked. Yes, Captain. They've been informed of our intent to investigate. Kim noted the careful phrasing. Not asked for permission but informed of intent. It was a subtle but profound shift in how the galaxy was beginning to operate. Over the past year, the success of the Rapid Response Division had sent ripples through the rigid structure of the Concordance. Several member species had begun implementing their own versions of human-style decision-making protocols. The term pulling a human had entered the galactic lexicon, meaning to take bold, unauthorized action that ultimately succeeded despite breaking protocol. Kim walked around the bridge, observing her mixed crew working together. Officer Min, from one of the oldest concordance species, was working alongside Engineer Chul, a human barely out of training. They were discussing potential modifications to the sensor array without filing the traditional 17 forms for equipment adaptation. It's still strange, said Commander Song, joining Kim at the observation window. A year ago, Min would have reported Chul for even suggesting an unauthorized modification. People can change, Kim replied. Even very old people from very old civilizations. Song smiled. The Concordance is changing faster than anyone expected. Did you hear about the colonial administration? They've implemented an emergency action protocol that allows local governors to act without central approval in crisis situations. Based on our model? Kim asked. They won't admit it publicly, Song said with a knowing look, but yes. They're calling it situational autonomy authorization. Sounds like they're still using 20 words when 5 would do, Kim laughed. Their conversation was interrupted by a call from communications. Captain, called out the communications officer, we're receiving a priority alert from Deep Space Monitoring Station Outpost 12. They've detected unusual energy signatures at the galactic rim. Kim turned to her mixed crew. Opinions? Commander Song, who a year ago would have insisted on waiting for concordance analysis, now immediately brought up tactical options. If we adjust course now, we can investigate before the full concordance fleet mobilizes. And if it's nothing? Asked Kim. Then we've wasted fuel, Song replied with a small smile. But if it's something, we'll be the first to respond, Kim finished. She settled into her command chair. Set course for the galactic rim, maximum speed. Notify the council we're investigating. As the ship changed direction, Kim thought about how much had changed. The first human ship to make contact with the Concordance had been tiny, barely capable of interstellar travel. Now, humans commanded the most advanced rapid response vessel in the galaxy. Officer Min approached her station. Captain, I've been analyzing the energy signature. It doesn't match anything in our database. First contact scenario? Kim asked. Possibly. Or a natural phenomenon we haven't encountered before. A year ago, this conversation would have triggered an immediate return to concordance space for consultation, committee formation, and months of deliberation. Recommendations? Kim asked instead. Proceed with caution, but proceed, Min said without hesitation. We're the best equipped to handle whatever it is. As they accelerated toward the unknown, Kim received a personal message from Justice Mun, who had presided over their trial a year earlier. Captain Kim, the message began, I note your course change toward the anomaly. A year ago, I would have ordered you to stand down and wait for a proper assessment team. Today, I simply ask for regular updates and caution. The galaxy is changing, in no small part due to your species' influence. Some call this progress. Others call it disruption. Perhaps both are true. Kim smiled as she read the message. Coming from a senior concordance official, this was practically a ringing endorsement. Captain, called her navigator, will reach the anomaly in 10 hours. The view screen showed the stars streaking by as the decisive action raced toward whatever awaited them at the edge of known space. Behind them was a galaxy slowly learning that sometimes action needed to come before permission. Ahead was the unknown, exactly where humans had always been most comfortable. "All stations, prepare for potential first contact," Kim ordered. "And remember, we represent not just Earth now, but a new way of thinking for the entire concordance." As her mixed crew acknowledged the order, Kim felt a surge of pride. Humans had arrived uninvited on the galactic stage and proceeded to change everything. Not through force or demands, but by simply being themselves, acting first and asking permission later, if at all. Whatever waited for them at the galactic rim, they would face it together, humans and aliens alike, united by a new understanding that sometimes the most important rules were the ones you knew when to break.